what more do you think that we could do as radio hosts? We have 40,000 listeners on average on Saturday nights between 8 and 9 p.m. What would you like to hear more of us in order to really get people to think before they pick a side?
So I come from the space of a community organizer. In fact, I'm reading for my public leadership credentials at Harvard. And my favorite professor is Marshall Gans. He worked with Cesar Chavez.
We've had his attorney on our other show. Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club has had his attorney on multiple times.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, and he's the one who ran, I think, Obama's campaign also with the storytelling and house meetings and, getting to the grassroots. So it's a successful model for community organizing. So my thing is people are too quiet. We have a problem in the world where 50% of the world are saying things that are not beneficial to the world,
Right.
And the other 50 are quiet. They're not speaking enough. So if there's some message I have to say is we got to be passionate about our lives, and our country and what we are capable and called to do, and to participate in it.
So you be loud and proud.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and find the right people. You want the right people in the right bus.
I love that. You want the right people in the right bus.
Because you will know, Jeffy, you call a meeting. First day, there are 50 people.
Right.
Second day, it dwindles down to 30. And the third meeting, it's 10.
And by the fourth meeting, there isn't one. You're the only one standing there.
That's because we didn't find the right people. And we teach how to find the right people. You must be knowing the concept of doing one-on-ones. Yes. What ticks you? What are your values, and what is your vision?
I just was on a reality show called The Blocks for Entrepreneurs for my business that I just launched. And one of the concepts they were teaching in this was that you don't need to sell to everybody. You just need to sell to the right everybody. And it really is that find your people, sell to those people because they're going to tell more people about it. And I think that your concept is exactly right. If you only have 2 people that come to your meeting every week and it's the same 2 people every week, pretty soon there'll be 4 people. And then they're going to be 6 people and so on and so on. That old hair commercial. Tell 2 people and they'll tell 2 friends and so on. And so, did you remember that commercial?
Yeah. I mean, no, I don't remember the commercial, but I remember the concept. They call it multi-level marketing.
Yeah. They'll teach 2 friends and so on and so on. Did you ever see that commercial, Soraya?
I don't recall.
Oh. Now I feel really old. It was I don't forget. It was some shampoo commercial.
The attorney that we had on, though, I remember.
The Cesar Chavez attorney?
Yeah. And he was kind of really big about Cesar Chavez challenging him in his ability to organize. It was something that he brought up on the radio program with the LA.
Cesar Chavez pushed him into going to law school.
Yeah, pushed him into getting his law degree, and I think the ACLU paid for him back then. The old ACLU, not today's ACLU.
The ACLU that was for you.
For you, right? Not for me. But anywho, and so, but he, it's interesting that we don't really kind of go too much into what value there is in having or building the skill sets for organizing so much. I mean, we talked a little bit about how my family's gotten a little bit more involved and said, hey, you know what? There's a lot of things that aren't discussed. There's a lot of things that aren't being, and we really wanted to focus on Los Angeles issues, but sometimes we
got national and international. But what's really interesting is we had someone calling in from Israel at one point on our show. He called in live from Israel. Yeah, it was really interesting. I forget what we were talking about then. It was a couple of years ago. But what I was going to say is that when you talk about how people should step up and organize, the Monroe family stepped up and has supported candidates and supported people. And when you say find the right people and do it the right way, as a result of the Monroe family stepping up and paying for our radio shows and paying for our candidates, we have been able to do something that we couldn't otherwise do. And that was we got David elected into the California GOP as the vice chair for the LA region. And so by getting people involved, we've started being able to turn the conservative.
Why is that important? It's important because a lot of people are looking for a different, like, okay, they're tired of getting a lot of the same, I think. And they're like, well, the first thing people think is, I'm going to switch parties. Right. Or maybe I'm not going to switch parties. Maybe I'm just going to vote the other party. And so it's like getting that kind of activation going about, let's focus on the issues, not so much the party. That was kind of our big thing. It's like, let's put the issues front and center. And we trust that people are going to have some common sense, some empathy. They're going to take.
But they've all sprouted off to do other things. I mean, that's the other thing. Yeah. A lot of the people that Dawn supported started other organizations. I mean, how long? So you've been doing this since 9/11. Mm-hmm. How has your organization grown with your concepts of doing exactly similar to what we did with ours? How is that? How has yours grown? You say you're doing classes. How do people find out about your classes? Where are your classes? What do your classes teach?
Okay, so we teach online. And then, yes, if we are called, we go to specific places. And I also travel a lot internationally. And what we are trying to do with the Muslim women speakers is that we are bringing in women from all over the world.
That is so amazing.
Yes, because, Melinda Gates once said, a woman with a mic is a powerful woman. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know Les Brown. He was my mentor.
Les Brown sounds familiar. Give me some context.
He's African American. He's one of the 5 top motivational speakers in the world.
Okay.
Married to Gladys Knight.
Yes, yeah. I've seen him on Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
I knew it sounded familiar, but I probably know more of what he looks like from Instagram than I know about his name.
Yeah.
Wow, what a wonderful mentor to have.
I know. He was phenomenal. And he talks about the power of story. Even when we are building community and organizing, shared story is critical. Mm-hmm. Your story and the value that it brings to you has to resonate with me so that we can come together for the cause.
And so what are the results that you've seen over those, 23 years?
Oh, plenty, and not sometimes also. Because we,
ebb and flow.
In the Muslim world, Jeffy and Dawn, we deal with a lot of patriarchy. And if you understand patriarchy, it's men. They assume moral superiority, religious superiority. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to really break that
glass ceiling.
That glass ceiling for us, because first thing what happens is you're ostracized from the community. Oh, she says this. She's attacking Islam. So we Muslim women, we have a huge problem to deal with. That's why, again, we go back to the base of power. Power in the world of organizing is not money. It's organized people. It's the numbers. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we continue to build, and we are, again, like you're lucky you had Dawn's family fund you. Funding is critical for this work.
But still, even the funding, you still need, I think,
I think you're hitting.
You need not just any people. She's saying
right.
Either.
No, you need the right people.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Without the synergy, it doesn't amplify.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that resonation. It doesn't resonate quite the same, and it doesn't attract other people to that cause that you may be kind of.
That cause is critical.
Yeah.
That cause. Yes.
Mm. So wow.
So first question you ask is, what is your cause? Lots of people don't know their
your
cause.
Why.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't know the why. So that would mean, what would the world be because you showed up?
That right there is so powerful. I mean, that is extremely powerful. You took it down to the basic root. And if you are a parent raising kids and your kids are doing something, good, bad, or whatever it is, and you go, why are you doing that? The first thing they want to know is, they're in trouble, and you're like, you're not in trouble. I just want to understand why you're doing that. Maybe they're pulling the wires out of the wall and you're like, they're going to electrocute themselves, but why are you doing that? Or, go back to why did they pick the apple off the tree? And there's argument as to whether it was Adam or Eve. I mean, little things like that. But when you get down to the why, it's a powerful question, because I think most people have no idea what their why is.
Yes.
I think a lot of people fail in life because they don't know what their why is. You know, they don't know. I get up in the morning because I have to go to work, because I have
Well,
to.
it's easy to. Well, I think people get started and they have the why, but life gets in the way, and so all of a sudden you're being pulled and all. People do it with business. You know, it's like, why did I start this business? And before they know it, 8 years later, they're still doing it, and they're just like, wow, I hate this business. And then sometimes that business, the spirit of it can be invigorated if the why comes back to them. And sometimes it takes an experience to remind them.
Or it just takes a pivot of one sort or another. And I think if you pivot, I think what you're doing, you're finding people and they're all of a sudden going, wow, what is my why? I think you're opening up women's minds and going, what's my why? But what can I do about it? And you're giving them the answer to what they can do about it.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You got
okay.
Not you, Soraya. So this experience happens with your son, and you seek to kind of, I guess, have Muslim women activated, right? And you also mentioned that it's not just about Muslim women today. Maybe it was then originally in your why, but as you start to network and you're talking with different people and you're getting all their experiences in, now you're kind of just, you summed it up differently earlier where you said, I feel like it's all religious people that are having to deal with these types of challenges in this culture today. I mean, is it fair to say that the kind of, between the media and where corporate, I don't even want to call it corporate America because it seems like it's an international problem at this point. I feel like it's not just America. I feel like so many, countries in Africa are kind of like, we're not going to take this indoctrination. And they're like, well, fine, you're not going to get the money. UN's not going to provide this. So it's like, wow, so we have to accept all of your cultural changes, your social engineering, and fundamentally change our country and who we are, right? And they're dangling that carrot. Isn't that, I don't know, it just seems like, it's like give up religion, I guess, almost, it feels like. I don't know. I mean, what are you experiencing since, it seems like you have a true international experience. A lot of us say, oh, I got international experience. I went to Greece.
That's interesting. No, you've actually gone and spoken and gotten to know the people. You've gotten into the grassroots and the weeds. So what's your experience? Is he right or wrong?
Specifically about...
specifically about the fact that, the statement as far as that the people of religion are having this challenge of being able to speak up about some of the issues today. I mean, we really got into, Israel, Gaza, but it's not just Israel, Gaza, it's all issues. And for some reason, if you mention just the slightest hint of religious philosophy, it's almost like shut down.
People's hair falls out.
Yeah, I mean...
You mean challenging it, right?
Right.
Challenging it, yeah.
Challenging it. It's like... but it's almost like for them, that's their... it's become a statement that's been used too much. Like, obviously you're Catholic. So it's like... It's almost... Or obviously you're Muslim. You're gonna believe that. So that's not a statement that...
that's an internal judgment.
It's not a statement that proves anything, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's kind of like when Trump, people right away, they say, oh, you must have voted for Trump. And it's like, you must be missing brain cells. This is practically what they're kind of insinuating. And I feel like even I have had conversations with people, and if you mention certain things, whether you say the spirit of, or you use the word God, or you use the word, certain words are almost triggering for some people because they themselves have decided to erase it from their vocabulary. True. And the minute you, and it's coming from a place that is heartfelt, you're being as true and loving in having this discussion. But if those things come up, I feel like the way I receive their responses is sometimes they feel as if I want to shame them, as if they cannot participate in the conversation because, oh no, he brought in this this other this God.
But do you find that internationally going on, or do you find that just really pretty much in America?
It's world over, because the Pew Research Center did a study, and they said the number one freedom was the freedom to choose your religion and to practice it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the number two was freedom of conscience and freedom of expression. So people perceive it as an attack if you question in not the correct way, or if you disagree. It's universal. It's universal.
So basically, people value, number one, what they can do behind closed doors, and two, what they can do in public. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. I might be wrong.
So you're heading for Stanford tomorrow. What can you talk about it?
Yes.
Please tell us, why are you going to Stanford? That's a big deal.
There is an international interfaith gathering to talk about what's happening, but there's high security and all of that. Some students are at the campus have organized it. And
wow.
Yes.
So you're going to have people from the Muslim community, the Christian, Catholic, Jewish community, and they're going to sit down, and what are they going to discuss?
Oh, so we're going to have presentations and a march.
Oh, nice. And so your march is going to be...
I think in the periphery of the campus.
But what is the march about? Freedom of religion?
It's about what's happening on the ground with the students and why we need to have dialogue.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. So I just want people to understand this march isn't a pro one side or the other, one versus the other. It's about coming together and sitting down at the table, breaking bread, as they say, and saying, let's talk about it.
Exactly.
Wow. And so how did they find you?
Oh, so one of the students knew our organization, and he approached us, and that's how.
Wonderful.
Yes, we have a good network in a sense that now that we are speaking out a lot, Muslim women, so we get called a lot.
Okay,
we spoke at Harvard, MIT, and
wow.
Yes, we've done a lot of work to really address hate.
So you spoke just a few minutes ago about the hierarchy in the Muslim religion, in particular for women, that men are the hierarchy. So how does that work in your household with your husband? Is he Muslim?
He's Muslim.
And how does that work in your household?
Well, I don't have it as an issue because I think I'm strong also. I'm the kind of woman who does something and then inform him.
I know those.
Guilty. But I mean, your husband has respect for what you're doing.
Yes, very much.
He's
supportive.
He's a very forgiving man.
Yes.
Don. But I mean, when you think about the Muslim religion, like you explained it earlier, is that there's a hierarchy in the religion, and that women, quote, have their place, unquote. And so here you are in America, which I believe is probably very different than Sri Lanka, your home country. You've made this your home country now. And so things were different. Did you find it freeing to be able to come here and find your voice and your why of being a Muslim woman that needs to speak up?
So I have to go back to Arab countries and non-Arab countries. In Arab countries, the Muslims are a majority. A different kind of Islam is practiced. Now, where I come from, we were a minority. Sri Lanka is a Buddhist country.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So religion does not dictate everything in your life like it does with the Arabs. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And we in Sri Lanka had the first woman prime minister in the world.
Oh, I didn't know that. I always thought it was in England.
No. Then I think it was Golda Meir. There's always a check on that. Some people say, no, it was her. We say it was our prime minister.
It was probably yours.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So the fact is that...
Darn white people.
So I never felt it's like a second class. But, Jeffrey, something has happened in the Muslim world. Now there's a lot of impact from the Middle East that has come to stay in our country, in our part of the world. If you will notice how the way the women dress, we're very Arabized. We were not like that before. So Saudi Arabia has not been the best example for the Muslim world, though it is changing rapidly now. a lot of damage was caused.
Well, I mean, when you go back and they showed pictures, someone did, someone posted, I don't think it was on Instagram, it might have been YouTube. They did a series of pictures of different parts of the world where there were Muslim women, and they were in short skirts. They were in Iran, and they were beautifully dressed and coiffed and gorgeous. And they did the 70s, then they did the 80s and how the skirts got longer, the 90s, how they had to wear a headdress, and then the year 2000 where they just have their eyes. That's it. And they have to, in some countries, the women actually have to wear gloves. They can't even be, the only thing that's skin that can be seen are their eyes, and that's it. And it was an interesting, over the time, over 40, 50 years, how it had changed, that women had lost their rights.
Right. And women's attire in the Muslim world has become like a prop, Anywhere you see, look at what's happening in Iran. The men are dictating what a woman needs to wear. In Afghanistan, the men are saying whether a woman can go to school or not. If you know that they have prohibited girls from going to school in Afghanistan.
They're killing them.
Yes, yeah.
And they're killing the families for allowing it.
Right. And Saudi Arabia for the longest time said women can't drive. And Egypt, the scores of countries. I think I also lead a group called Understanding Patriarchy. Now, patriarchy is very wide, right? It is an institution. You have patriarchy in every system and in every organization. But we study religious patriarchy. So I have a professor friend who's in that group. She always says, the religion, patriarchy valorizes women's bodies. So it's about controlling the body. Now, if you look at the Catholic Church, okay, women are not allowed to preach. Are you Catholic now?
Yeah, we were. Well,
No.
we were raised
I was
Catholic.
raised Catholic, but no, I'm not Catholic.
I don't go to church though.
So okay, so I work very
I
closely
have
with
issues.
the Women's Ordination Conference, where women are wanting to be able to preach and teach. So that is another form of controlling the woman, right?
Right.
Either you tell her what to wear or what she can do, or you dictate her limits. So this is very pervasive. I think religion can also be a strong force for the good as well as it can be.
It's kind of interesting, real quick, because the Pope just recently, he's like, oh, we should have same-sex marriage in the churches, and the Catholic Church was like, hold on a second. Yet they still won't allow women to preach.
To ordain them.
Nope,
Yeah.
they won't ordain them, but they'll change the other values. There was something else he just did recently too. You were going to say something, Don?
Well, just growing up in the Catholic environment, it was always strange to me as a kid. Like, so this guy's a priest. He tells us how we should, handle our businesses of, well, it's a business, but our family business, right? Our family issues. And yes, I mean, I guess the concept is that, well, this is a person who meditates and is close to God, right? But it's like, where's his experience, I guess?
Yeah,
right?
never been married.
I'm just,
yeah.
Yeah. And so I've always wondered, like, okay, so I always thought to myself, and this is even as a young kid, that things would be healthier and maybe more valuable if it came from someone with experience. If the priest was married,
Right.
that was
That's
kind of
where that's
You
where the
thought
Christian.
that?
as
How
a kid,
old were you?
I was probably 12,
Wow.
13, and I had a lot of death as a kid. My brother was murdered when I was right around 12. So there's a lot of things you go into your mind as far as making sense of your world and things going on. So yeah. But it just seemed odd to me,
My biggest problem with the Catholic religion is, and I didn't understand why I needed a priest to talk to God.
Yeah.
I was like, how does that work?
Right. That never worked for me.
Yeah,
I always skipped the father, all the fathers. In my
but from the female perspective, so I was raised in a Roman Catholic church, and at the time, I think they were one of the only churches left here in the Valley in San Fernando. They actually still preached in Latin. My Irish grandmother I had a twin sister. We had to go to church and we had to wear gloves. We had to be dressed up to the bottom of our chin. We had to wear tights and little cute dresses. We had to wear gloves. The only thing that showed on us were our faces.
Wow.
That's how we went to church every Sunday. And my mom, we finally looked at mom.
That's
we're not
why
doing
you
this.
don't go to church anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go every day.
I never wore a dress
used to
till
go
I was
every day
21
at
after
6 o'clock
that.
in the morning with my uncle, and I thought, gosh, how many bodies are buried? Because you had to have done a lot of bad. That's something I used to joke around with in my own head.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think I wore a dress until I was 24 after
So
that.
in Sri Lanka, how was it then as a Muslim growing up? I mean, did you have to cover up? Did you
No,
have to?
no, it was very liberal.
Very
Very
liberal.
liberal until recently.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Muslims have flipped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
When the Arab world is saying, okay, women can drive, they don't need to wear that.
Why do they have such influence, though? Why do they have more influence on the culture than where the majority of the population of Muslims come from?
Oh, I think Saudi Arabia leads the way and economic necessity.
Economic?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
They would go build a mosque and they will get one of their
Oh.
trained imams, religious leaders to preach their theology.
Oh.
Yeah. So then it's a trickle down. And
So if you go to Sri Lanka right now, how do you need to dress as a Muslim woman?
if I go to the mosque, I have to cover up, but it's not as strict as you would find in any of the Arab countries.
So if you're not at the mosque, you could be dressed how you are now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
We don't have to mandatory cover. There's no dress code for Muslim women. But again, there is the cold, the war going on, you know, whether your piety is measured by how you dress.
Right.
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 All that is there. Yeah.
Guys, we're so lucky in America.
Yes.
People in America, until you've lived in another country, you have no idea what it's like. I lived in Canada for 4 years, and they speak English. They do, but they're still a different country. They live differently. They think differently. They're just different. You know, I mean, it is a different country, and it does come down to the leadership. Who's the leadership of your country? Mm-hmm. Now, you have a daughter too, right? Mm-hmm. And so how are your children following in their Muslim beliefs with both Muslim parents?
Good question.
Because a lot of kids lose their religion.
Yes. My daughter has struggles a lot. When she was in middle school, I sent her to church because that's how we were raised.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we were raised to respect other religions, go and learn. So I went to church, I went to the mosque, we didn't have synagogues, but we went to the Hindu temples. So her best friend was Christian, and I sent her to the youth group.
Wow.
Yes, and I don't know, she was very analytical, and she challenged those stories that were taught to her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But that's good. I think it's healthy, actually.
Very healthy.
because
It's healthy.
They didn't appreciate it. I guarantee you that.
I kept questioning it all the way up to that philosophy course I told you I was taking at Pasadena
Alder
College.
Bourdieu. Or 18.
Did they encourage questioning in your
Oh,
community?
yes, it was encouraged. It's funny because the professor we had was like, look, he would never tell anybody what his stance was. You could assume he was an atheist, but he probably wasn't. I think he just really wanted.
He knew his place.
He knew his place, and he wanted people to have their own kind of organic, natural growth.
Oh, okay.
And so he taught us how to think and how to break things down, not what to. That's why that experience is fun. It should be fun. It shouldn't have to feel. You shouldn't have to feel threatened, right? To have that dialogue. But that's what we have today. Is this constant threat, and I think it really boils to this whole political correctness war that we have going on. We're teaching our kids that we want tolerance, but with that same tolerance, we're also teaching them great intolerances. It's kind of interesting. It's like, you know, we have to teach you how to be tolerant, but let's be intolerant of those people and those ideas, and it's just wild to me.
But here's the thing where I think religion is important when you raise your kids. And I didn't have children, but I think religion is important when you raise your kids because there's philosophies that you gain in your religion. I don't care what religion it is. Doesn't matter what it is. I think you are taught right from wrong. I think you're taught the 10 Commandments in some form or another. And when I look at your kids, Dawn, and they went through not being vaccinated at school, and they were the only kids in their Catholic school that were not vaccinated, and they stood their ground. They had kids that even the kids were, and they stood their ground. And teaching your children their own values and what they believe. If they had gone to him and said they wanted to be vaccinated, I don't know what you would have done, but they have their own. They're now in their teens, and they all can take a stand for themselves. And I'm wondering if your daughter and son are the same way.
Yes, I think she's done that.
I'm thinking she is because of the story you just told.
But it's also it also shows the level of respect of her spirit here, right? Her experience. It's like, why would you want to go and just dump and force? I mean, all of your experience, even though you have good intentions, right? I mean, the process, almost like this. Let's go through this process. This trust this process, and it comes from love. It's really it boils down to this process of father and mother, or mother father, right? And I think that's what's the amazing natural kind of growth that we all go through. I don't know, and I think when we talk about we spend so much time sometimes trying to break down the other side, like what a man's role is and a woman's role is, I think. And sometimes it's like we have this, in many other cultures, they talk about the feminine and the masculine and how they're together have this kind of harmony. But we're going, it's so unharmonious today because there's just so much static in everything that we do.
But you talked about having your daughter go to Catholic or to go to a Christian school or whatever. And she was able to take a stand for herself. But I think you're also teaching your children what your grassroots is about, and that is finding your own people. I think when you do what you did with your daughter, and she got to go to a Christian school or day camp or whatever it was that she did, she took a stand to be Muslim and be proud to be Muslim, but she also got to find her people that didn't necessarily have to be like her, look like her, or pray like her.
Yeah, she got there in a natural way versus
being pushed at it.
Being pushed at because.
But I think you and your organization asking your why, you're teaching the same thing to adults. What do you think?
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Be curious, learn, and
Yeah, don't. There's for many people, there's a deep vulnerability. That process is, because if you've been on a path for so long.
Well, it's also arrogance. You don't want to be wrong, so therefore you want to acknowledge it.
Have you been to a mosque?
I have.
Oh, inside?
I was not able to go inside. I did it. I went through a period in my early 20s where I was like, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't think any of it's true. I think it's just a book that someone wrote. And so, at the time, I was with someone who he passed away before we could get married, but I didn't know tithed his income to a Christian church. I didn't know how religious he was. So I went through this whole experience thinking I had a partner going through it with me, and he was like, "Oh no, I'll let you experience it, but you should go do other things." So he really was encouraging for me, go to a mosque, go to a temple, go to a Buddhist temple, and there was a Buddhist temple that had just been built. Right off of Las Virgenes, that beautiful white and gold temple. I think it's a Buddhist temple. So you were able to go in there and they had visitation, but I was never able to go into a mosque. That was the only thing I couldn't go into. But I went into a Buddhist temple. I did Yomaho Renge Kyo for a while.
What would we find? Because I haven't. In Culver City, they have a mosque. And I always took pictures because there was a gun store
right next door.
And then across the way was a mosque. And I was like, this is interesting, but the city bought the store and closed it down. So that's the story of that one. But it's kind of so you know that one.
I don't think I knew enough about the Muslim religion to go into a mosque. I don't know. I mean, it really was me being curious and having zero education. So I probably wasn't dressed appropriately, or I had pants on. I mean, who knows? But I'm also the person that went to Paris for the weekend, and it happened to be Easter weekend. And you could go into Notre Dame at the time, and they didn't care how you were dressed, because even though they were doing Easter services, they still realized that they were a tourist attraction. And I was the one, because of the way I raised, I absolutely refused to step in the church without a skirt on.
How would people be received, I guess, in a mosque if they didn't know the practices, the rituals.
We'll come visit.
And they just came in. How would they be received?
Well,
Yeah.
in some mosques fear and anxiety. Oh my God, why is he here?
Okay.
Yeah, you can't walk in like a church,
Oh, no.
Church, you can just go, anybody. Nobody checks
Yeah.
you.
But you'll get
mosques
checked.
are smaller and they're
More
more
intimate?
compact. Yes.
Okay.
So generally, you might go with somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any Muslim friends? No,
I
you
do.
have one.
I do.
You know what?
I do.
When
do.
we
now
had-
more. Yes.
Are you familiar with Rabbi Barkley at 1,000 Oaks?
No.
Okay, so Rabbi Barkley, we had him on October 7th. We had him on the air, and then we actually had him in studio 2 weeks later.
Matter of fact, his synagogue is
In
like
Thousand Oaks.
Oh no, it's a block away from where that gentleman.
Yes, he's a
was
block
killed.
away from where Paul Kessler prior to COVID had been one of his
Congregants?
Congregants. And so we had gone for, it was right after, I think, what was the holiday right after October 7th? Wasn't, I forget which one it is.
It was a Jewish holiday.
It was a Jewish holiday. I forget which one it was. But we had gone to, he had an open house prayer for the victims of October 7th and et cetera. And we were invited to go. So Dawn and I went. And it's the one where I want to say it's the New Year. I think it was the New Year because we danced with the Torah. They handed us each the Torah and we were able to dance with the Torah. And they actually had us all stand with our faces out in a circle with our backs to the center, and they opened Torah all the way around and had us pick a part of the Torah, and that was what we had to study for the year.
Wow. You were allowed to do it, even though
Yeah.
you're not Jewish?
Yep, we were invited and allowed to
Wow.
attend. Yeah, and so we went, and I actually, in the 11th hour, before they were putting Torah away, I said, Dawn, you got to dance with Torah. It's the last chance in your life you'll ever get to do that.
Oh, you should have a program with all of us, interfaith.
Yeah.
I would love
That'd
to.
be great.
Yeah.
They'd definitely be.
You know, that would be
for it.
something we could do in the office where we could have a round circle and set
or
the
in
cameras
or
up.
in the big room.
Oh, yeah, we could probably do the bigger. That studio seats 4 people. Ours only seats 3.
It's very necessary. I think the Jewish people are hurting a lot because they don't see a lot of Muslims standing up and speaking for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And those of us who are Muslims who are speaking up, we need to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have the bishop. The bishop.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, so we could get the bishop. I'm sure, I have no doubt that Barkley would come. No doubt.
Yeah.
Who is the bishop?
Juan Carlos Mendez. He's the bishop for LAPD. He's their, what would you call him?
Well, he's a network.
He has Churches in Action.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have you ever
Yeah.
heard of Churches in Action?
no. I
Oh,
thought.
we need to introduce her.
Yeah.
Oh.
He has 3,700 different churches, mosques, synagogues all together, and he believes in religions speaking to one another.
Very similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, she would. We should really actually introduce you.
But his he's Baptist, right? So, and he's
But he knows the Pope. He's known all the last 3
yeah,
popes.
No, he's very engaged, just as you are, and
He was a high school principal
Where
in
does he
the
live?
city.
Well, yeah, there was a movie that was done where Denzel Washington plays. It's called George Washington High School.
Uh-huh.
So he played actually my uncle. My uncle was that principal for that school. And the funny thing is that the way sometimes the universe brings people back around, Juan Carlos Mendez was the priest in that movie as well. And he was part of the activism in the community through the church. And my uncle was big about getting to the people in the community because the kids weren't even being sent to school. It was like, oh, it's a dead cause. Why get educated? You need to go make a living, get a job.
It was one of the most dangerous
Yeah.
high schools in LA County, in LA County,
City.
in LA City.
LA City,
And
yeah.
your uncle was the principal.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
He turned
was
it
the
around.
story about him?
Yes.
He turned the school around.
It's called George Washington High.
Turned the school around and got kids to go to college. Got
And then
people to
many
go
of
to
my
school.
other cousins became principals, and then so yes, a lot of our families in the educational field here in Los Angeles. So we like I said, you don't become Angelinos for 100 years. Well, at least I'm glad that our family has been giving back, and all of us give back in our own way. So Yeah.
But Juan Carlos Mendez would be someone to really introduce you to for your movement because he's got churches in action.
Yeah.
And so he gets involved with, he knows you have a lot of, are they Angelica churches, the big black?
Evangelical,
Even
Baptist,
Evangelica
all-
churches. Yeah, he knows a lot of them. He knows a lot of people that would be great for you to get involved with. He'd be someone, well, I'll give you his information, have you call. I'll call him.
Okay.
He's doing a private event tomorrow evening for Jewish Remembrance Day.
Wonderful.
So he's organized that with Barclay. That's what they're doing tomorrow night.
You would be there?
We were invited. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. My day starts at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
I'll be curious to know if there are any Muslims.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what?
I'll ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donald call him. Hey, you got any Muslims coming? When do you come back tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night,
What time do you get back?
9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's too late. It'll be over.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't introduce you and get you involved. We can introduce you to Rabbi Barclay as well.
Yeah.
Because another thing, Jeffrey, is that we need more different people need to speak up to this issue, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
What's happening in LA and
Well, you know,
Juan
Ben-
Carlos is
he's very active.
The
He
bishop
went-
is extremely active and very vocal.
Right. No, I meant Muslims.
Oh.
If the other leaders are not speaking and they are quiet, they've all gone.
Right.
They're absent.
But he's the guy that will call the
Yeah.
leaders of the Muslim churches
he probably has some
mosques.
Muslims that he's
I'm
been working
sure
with.
he would make those
Positive.
phone calls.
Because I know the Jewish community is feeling so vulnerable. We have to stand up and make, because they just gone through the Holocaust and then this happens,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nobody is standing up for them.
Well, the interesting thing,
Are you kidding? The colleges are allowing these protesters to tell a Jewish kid he needs a band to go to the library that he's paying for. I put that video up. I was really upset about it.
And for all I know, those kids must be on a scholarship by a Jewish philanthropist.
Exactly. The kids that want
Exactly,
they
yeah.
want the wristbands.
there's a statement recently that I heard, and it just I listened to a lot of other Stoicism and other things as well. So, and they were saying, remember that within 3 generations rather, almost everybody that you knew, no one will remember who you are after 3 generations, kind of a concept,
Wow.
and here we are, how many generations since the Holocaust, and it's how quickly people can forget. There's very few survivors. I mean, you used to see survivors in your community all the time, and it was just,
You didn't know they were survivors
you
either
didn't-
because they didn't talk about it until Schindler's List came out.
Right. Until Schindler's List came out, and then they had stories, like you talk about stories.
The stories are why we have the
And
memories of
and
the
I-
Holocaust. And then they wrote books. The survivors wrote books.
And
I have a
those-
lot of books.
But those stories stay with people. They stay with people, whether Jewish or not Jewish, and they carry those stories with them. And here in America, the Native American Indians, it was a lot through story. Stories made a big part of just their culture, period. So you take away the story, you take away their history, you take away their culture, you take away. So we can enrich ourselves through these storytelling, I think. I think these are that's a good concept. I'm sure at many meetings you have stories that you constantly share with
Yes,
people that resonate, because if they're a thinking mind, they're going to take away some of the key components of that story.
Can anyone be involved in your organization, even if they're not Muslim?
Yes,
And how do they get involved?
definitely. So they can volunteer, and if we are having projects, we are collaborating with the Latino women, a group of Latino women, having a huge conference here on the 24th of June.
Where?
Where's that city? Somewhere in off of Glendale, Alhambra.
You were probably just there. On your way here. San Fernando, maybe?
Yeah. I
San
should
Fernando.
introduce her to you, and you should have a Latino Muslim conversation also.
She's Latino Muslim?
No. I
Oh.
said a Muslim
No.
woman and a Latino.
Oh, well, I'm sure there are some I don't know.
Latino Muslims, yes.
Yes, I'm sure there are. They're just far and few between, and they probably are very quiet and keep to themselves.
Well, we know you have a long day planned tomorrow.
Yes, it's 5 to
And you're
10
gonna get
now.
earlier, so we're over.
We said 9:30.
Time flies.
I know.
Yes.
But how do people get a hold of your organization if they choose
there
to
a
get
social
involved? Is there a
media
social media? How do they get
handle, or-
involved?
Yes, so MuslimWomenSpeakers.com, Soraya at MuslimWomenSpeakers.com. Social media also Muslim Women Speakers.
I have to follow you.
Yeah. So just put Muslim Women Speakers and
Okay.
you'll find some
Got
leads.
it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to Jeffy Said What, Dawn, and
Soraya.
Soraya. I had to think about that for a second. I was like, I have